Hello everyone, is my screen visible?
Yes, hi Durga. Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's start with the session. Hello everyone, welcome to the lab event about shifting systems towards sustainable futures by bridging ancestral roots, circular digital innovation, and inclusive entrepreneurship for advancing everyone a change maker world. The topic for this lab is National Multidimensional Poverty Index, and I'm Durga, a collaborator at Nosotros and Animena B Corp. And I would like to thank you all for being here and being willing to share your views. So let me introduce our panelists for today. We have four speakers. We have Vartika Tomar, who is working on government and public sector vertical at Deloitte. We have Matia figliozzi, who is the founder of UNIBAIO. We have Pratiksha Jawanjale, who is the manager of grants and partnerships at Qure.ai. And we have Akphan Behera from Deloitte USI. So, before starting the discussion, I would request you all to briefly introduce yourself. We can start with Vartika.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Vartika Tomar. I hail from India. I have completed my graduation in political science from the University of Delhi, followed by which I did a specialization 1 year program in the public policy, which is from Indian School of Public Policy. Right after that, I joined the Deloitte's government and public sector vertical, where I worked with multiple state governments and international government. Currently, I'm working with the government of Mauritius in order to make their national e-licensing platform more user-friendly and conducive for the user. It's a single window system. And then I have multiple experiences in the space of education in the state of, particularly in the state of Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh. And it's lovely to connect with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vartika. Thank you so much for your lovely introduction. Now, I would like to ask Matthias to give us a brief introduction about himself.
Thank you, Durga. Nice meeting you all. Thank you for the time and invitation. My name is Matias Figliozzi. I am co-founder and CEO of UNIBAIO, a biotech startup from Argentina, now relocated in New York in the US, who is working to reduce the need of toxic chemicals in agriculture. And we do that with a new particle that helps to increase the efficacy of the pesticides that farmers needs. So we are working on creating more sustainable alternatives so we can reduce the amount of toxic chemicals that are affecting human health and also the amount of chemicals that are degrading the soil that we need to produce the food we eat. I am an economist and I've been working with Hecho por Nosotros for 10 years now. And I help as an economist advising Adriana and the team in everything I can on economic development, entrepreneurship, and international businesses. Thank you. And Durga, I would love to record the session, but I don't have permission. So if you can give me permission, I will record. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Let me figure it out. Meanwhile, Akpan, you can give your introduction.
Thank you, Durga. Hello, everyone. I am Akphan and I am from India as well. And I've completed my graduation from University of Delhi, post which I started working with Deloitte USI. But over the years, starting from my undergraduation years, I've been working very closely with social entrepreneurs and specifically and I've been working on ground in the grassroots level with these entrepreneurs. And that is one reason why I feel that being here as a change maker with everyone who's a change maker here makes me feel highly honored. And along with all of it, I have been working not just in the field of social entrepreneurship, but also as the financial literacy head for Wiki, which is the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce. And with all of this, I feel that with the limited experience I have, I would love to interact with all of you about poverty, the multidimensional aspects of it, and understand, and all of us together can come towards some practical conclusions towards the end.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you. I hope that we will be able to figure out some valuable insights after the lab. So, Pratiksha, can you please give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. Really good to be here
with all of you. I studied mechanical engineering, but I call myself a development professional. After engineering, I did a fellowship called Gandhi Fellowship in India. I was in Haryana for 2 years, where I was working on education development with school heads, principals, and children and communities in that particular geography. Post my fellowship, I joined a consulting firm called Satwa Consulting, where I was part of the corporate advisory, where we advise companies on their 2% CSR funds. I also worked on foundations and making strategies for multinational banks on resource mobilization. I spent 3 years at Satwa, and during that time, I also did a social innovation management program where with Amani Institute, where I co-founded an organization called Trust Roots Network with my co-founder, Julia. She's from Germany. So that is something that I'm currently also working on. Last year, I moved to a company called Qure.ai. Our aim is to provide accessible, affordable healthcare in the LMICs and in developed countries as well. So we have an algorithm that detects abnormalities in the X-rays and helps radiologists and doctors to improve healthcare outcomes. Yeah, really nice to be here and interact with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratiksha. Thank you for the introduction and your initiative, the Trust Root Foundation. It is really, really great. So, yeah, since we all are now familiar with each other, we can start with today's agenda, which is the Multidimensional Poverty Index in Indian context. As we know that Niti Aayog in collaboration with UNDP and OPHI developed the National Multidimensional Poverty Index that offers a multidimensional perspective on poverty. So let me share the another slide. Is it visible? Yeah. So here we can see that there are basically 3 dimensions and they are subdivided into further dimensions for the multidimensional poverty index in India. We have health sector where we consider nutrition, child and adolescent mortality and maternal health. Then we have the education sector, which is focusing on the years of schooling and the school attendance. And finally, we have 7 further dimensions in the standard of living. Now, what is different in multidimensional poverty index at a global stage and the national multidimensional poverty index, which is in India? The main differentiation is we have maternal health and bank account only in the Indian MPI, not in the global. So it is a kind of unique initiative that the Indian government has taken up. So and India is aiming to reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to the national definitions by 2030. So I would like to ask Vartika, how do you think that adding these indicators of maternal health and bank account can help us achieve this goal of reducing poverty by 2030?
Thank you so much for the question, Durga. I definitely feel that these two indicators are extremely essential, and I would like to throw some light on why these two indicators were actually chosen besides the other indicators that we already have at a global level. First of all, bank accounts, as we all know, that DBT, which is direct bank transfer, was introduced by the government in 2013, and since then they have been opening up of different bank accounts, a large number of bank accounts in the country, and I think that probably happened because that actually happened because a lot of schemes, it becomes easier for the beneficiary to get the benefits of the scheme through direct bank transfer. It also kind of prevents leakages. So, in that sense, it has been extremely essential, especially in the states like Chhattisgarh, Bihar, and even Jharkhand for that matter. In these particular states, there were a large number of bank accounts which were open. And that's why this indicator becomes essentially important, because today, majority of the schemes are actually using direct bank transfers. So if you don't have a bank account, then probably you will find it extremely difficult to become one of the beneficiaries of these schemes, and hence it becomes important. Uh, Other than that, in maternal health, there are a couple of schemes which have there are plethora of schemes which are there. I think a combination of 12 schemes which is there in NASH, NFHS. And I definitely feel that maternal health is important because 80% of healthcare depends actually on maternal health, and there has been a lot of infant mortality rate in the country, and hence these two priorities are very important, especially in a developing country like India, where the maternal health has played a very significant role in the health of the child. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Vartika. The points you have mentioned here are really, really important, especially in Indian context, because we can see that earlier people were not getting the funds from the government because there were leakages. And now, since the government has initiated a lot of schemes which give bank account access easily, now people are able to get the funds directly to their accounts. So this is really, really important. And definitely, maternal health is something which we cannot negotiate with anything. It is something which is essential because women are essential part of a society. And I think that maternal health can also maternal health benefits can also develop kind of increase in the employment rate of mothers. So I think that this is really, really important point that you have mentioned. uh, so I think this is very, very clear for us that these two indicators are really important for the Indian context. Now I would like to ask Matthias to take over, and he can interact with Pratiksha. He has a really, really interesting question to ask with Pratiksha.
Give me one second. Have a technical problem here.
Yeah, sure.
So related to these questions, I'm moving to one of the other main speakers in this session. I was thinking in the Grassroots network, and I read that it's creating sustainable and partnerships and equitable partnerships among different stakeholders in India. So I was thinking how these trust-based partnerships can contribute more effective to poverty alleviation, and what lessons can you share that could be applied in a more broadly speak? This question is for Pratiksha. Pratiksha.
Sure.
Sorry,
Thank you. No problem.
Sorry, I didn't pronounce it well, the name. But
It's
Pratiksha.
Pratiksha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking that question, right? I think we started, I also have my co-founder Jay on this call. Hi, Jay. And she's here in India, and we've been working together on our prototype right now. So we don't have the full-fledged uh, uh, platform right now running. We are still working on the platform and doing some user research and studying the topic and why it's important, right? Coming to the point where how we build trust and would that help in reduction of poverty, right? I think these are two different things, but the end goal is for the communities to take control of what they actually want, and not funders to dictate what development should be for the communities, right? Basically, what we want to do is uh, uh, problem solve the power imbalance that is there, the inequality is there, and how this is making things worse for the grassroots to work on. And it's everything that they do is ineffective if the power imbalance is there, right? Uh, if I relate it to poverty, I think it would mean that grassroots who are doing the actual work on the ground are not visible to a lot of people out there. Some of them do not even have websites. Some of them do not know how to speak English, and they do not have the access to the funding. Only less than 3% of funding goes to grassroots directly, and the aim, the grand bargain is that at least 25% of the funds go to these grassroots. I think when that happens, we might be able to see some changes in how poverty is tackled in rural places and communities. But I do not really have a direct correlation between poverty and how sustainable engagement with the communities through grassroots would happen. But in some way, I just would want to answer that it might happen.
That's true, Pratiksha. Actually, the point you mentioned here, it is very much related to what we discussed in the earlier event, that the grassroots and local voices are so important in tackling any problem, especially poverty, because if we do not have the voices of those who are working at the grassroots and those who are affected by causes like poverty, if we do not include them, then it is probably it is not that effective to discuss such things here. So I think that point you have mentioned here and the work you are doing is really, really important to tackle poverty and other such problems in the society. Since that was a really, really great answer. Next, I would like to ask Akpan, what do you think some of what are some key challenges in the implementation of National Multi-Poverty Index, and how can these challenges be addressed through collaboration with stakeholders?
Thank you for the question, Durga. So, to understand the problems that we might face and that we are facing while we are doing the multi-dimensional poverty index and while we are doing our research is something that we need to understand here is that let's take, for example, out of these three indicators, we have various sub-indicators as well. So let's take one of these examples like bank accounts, which comes under standard of living. Now, although it is easy for us to find out the number of bank accounts that is there, particularly in the Indian context, but what is also important to understand is that how many of these bank accounts are actually active and are in use. It's not essential that we only find out, the difference between the bank accounts that were there last year to the difference of to the accounts that were there this year, but also to understand that just creating the bank account does not solve the problem. The problem will be solved when these bank accounts are used by people for whom they are created and they're able to use the facilities that is provided through these bank accounts, the reason why this is created in the first place. And for that, I believe that basic financial literacy and education needs to be provided to these people so that the process is not just smoother for them, but at the same time they're able to utilize the purpose why it was created at the first place. So these are very small things, but again things that needs to be uh, driven upon and things that we need to actually understand while we do our research on this multidimensional poverty index. Sure that maybe a decade down the line we did not have an index which was so comprehensive like it is today, but at the same time I also strongly believe that just having the index based on these factors, I think we still have to go deeper to understand each of these factors better so that we'll be able to come up with a better we'll be able to come up with a effective statistics over and above a statistics that's just a statistics and is not really showing us the implementation and the usefulness of the numbers that we're seeing.
True, true. I think this is like the fundamental point we are discussing here, because laying down the rules and laying down the indicators is just the starting point. The real problem and the real solution comes at the ground when we actually implement those indicators, when we are actually able to deliver this kind of services we want to deliver in the society. I think Matthias want to add something.
Yes, I find this topic very interesting, and I have a follow-up question for Akphan. Just curious about this, and I don't know if it is contemplated in any of these indicators, the economic freedom, I will say, if it is the people have the power to release their means to have a way to go outside poverty. In the way they were mentioning before in the previous session, for example, in Brazil, this man that was apprehended like 8 times and kept into unbeneficial ways of laboring. And I think it's not necessarily related of not having enough education, probably it does, but it's always also related to if in their ecosystems, in their governments, in where they are located, if they have freedom enough to make their life and their own decisions. These all measures the tools, I think, that they need to have to be able to do that. But I'm not sure in which indicator are they measure if the rules are letting them to do it, if they have the tools.
Right. Thank you for your question. I understand the in-depth question that you're actually
Yeah.
trying to ask here, and I feel this is a very interesting topic, and this is something that actually made me think about it better. And I feel that if we talk about this in an Indian context specifically, I'll say that the freedom to actually make a decision comes when we have that power to make a decision, and the power to make a decision will only come when we've achieved a little benchmark, which is at least, I mean, if we think about the Maslow's hierarchy, until unless we haven't achieved that basic the basic needs that we have, which we can see on the screen, is the basic healthcare, the basic education, the basic standard of living. I feel until unless we haven't achieved all of this, it's quite difficult, if we think about it practically, to actually have the power to be able to take that decision on our own and for ourselves. So I feel that once these three factors are covered, once people are above the poverty line, only then, once they're having access to these basic needs that they need to have, only then I feel it'd be possible for them to raise their voice and to actually take a decision for themselves.
Thank you for the answer. It's very clarifying.
Yeah, thank you, Akphan. The last question I would like to ask from Vartika. Since you are part of a consulting organization, what challenges do you foresee in implementing the policies on the National Multidimensional Poverty Index? And how can a consulting firm provide support in overcoming these challenges?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so like we have already discussed that these sub-indices and indicators are simply the starting point. What matters is the implementation, and each one of them have to be looked at in depth. Now, India is a vast country where there are multiple states, and each state has multiple districts. And as we know that uh, when the first MPI was introduced, states like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, these states were doing extremely poorly. And now these states have actually shown significant progress, and the dynamics have completely changed. So what is important for our country is to not just look at the national level, but to go beyond that, to actually think of it at state level, at district level, and then at constituency level. Because India is a vast country, and we change. As it is said in India, the languages change in every few kilometers, the dialects change in every few kilometers. So does the geography, so does the culture, so does the history, and everything is so dynamic that as a country it's very important to be very, very particular and not just think about things on a very broad spectrum. Now, how can a consulting firm actually help in that? A consulting firm is known for its strategic it's known for its strategic abilities, it's known for data analysis, it's known for its ability to analyze things on an extremely minute level. Like Deloitte is currently working with the largest state of the country, which is Uttar Pradesh, and they're trying to make it 5 trillion economy. So what we are doing there is to go in each and every district of the state and understand the dynamics of that particular state. I myself have done a district level case study for the district of Meerut, which is also my hometown. And when I actually went in the streets of Meerut, when I went to the district offices, when I went and met the government, the students who are studying in government ITIs, the students who are studying in private ITIs, the teachers who are teaching, the people in placement cell, the DIC,
and we have to transit. That's why Luis said pressure. I wanted to arrive, yes, to end this direct